Hey everyone, welcome to the Pawareness podcast, and thanks for joining me. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, and also check us out at pawareness.org and on Instagram at pawareness_official. On Instagram, we are doing submissions for Pet of the Week, where you can submit your foster pet, and we'll pick one winner every month, and we'll give $200 to their choice of charity or foster. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Pawareness podcast. Today I have Lisa Walker from the Cat Nook. Really excited to speak with you because as we were talking before, you are a cat cafe, but you're a rescue too. And so you're a non-for-profit, which I think is really interesting. So go ahead, introduce yourself, introduce the business, and what it is that you guys do.
Thank you, Chris. My name is Lisa Walker. I am from the Cat Nook Café in Norwood, Pennsylvania. We are right outside Philadelphia, and we are a cat cafe that is run by Rescue, 501c3 Rescue, called Animal Coalition of Delaware County.
And what is that like, running a cafe and a non-for-profit at the same time? What does that look like?
So actually, by virtue of running the nonprofit, that's what motivated us to open the cat cafe. We're a small rescue group. Foster-based rescue. We didn't have a facility of our own. And as you know, land and a facility, like to actually have a shelter, is very expensive. So we were determined to have some sort of facility of our own. And this was really the first step in having a large facility. We can afford, the rent of a storefront. We can afford, the upkeep and the maintenance of a facility like this, as opposed to the upkeep of a full shelter. So we were actually, the Animal Coalition of Delaware County was formed in 2005. So we've been around a while. We've had a long time to kind of plan how we wanted to go about doing something like this. And when the ideas and the different cat cafes were opening, we thought that this would be a great opportunity for us, knowing that as a small rescue, we can't really operate a large shelter, but something like this is infinitely doable for a smaller rescue.
A couple questions here. At what point in the journey, I know you mentioned the rescue's been open since 2005, but when did the cafe open? And then also, how many cats can you guys house right now? What's that like?
So we opened the cafe in 2018. The fall of 2018. We actually started construction build out in the spring of 2018 and got everything done and opened in fall of 2018. We worked with the township that we're located in, and based on square footage, we are allowed to have up to 12 cats here in this facility.
That's awesome. And how long, I know that you mentioned that you have a new guy, but what's the average length that you're housing cats there, right? Like, if you would guess.
It varies. It really varies. We have cats that will be here as long as 6 months. We have cats that are gone within a week or two. It really just depends on the cat. It depends on what, I don't want to say, compatibility, but it does depend on compatibility. If someone is looking for, compatibility and availability. If we have a lot of outgoing cats that are available and people are looking for outgoing cats, they're going to move. If we have someone who's looking for a companion for their cat and we have, cats that fit that bill, it just really depends. Actually, right now with COVID, we're having a hard time keeping cats in stock.
That's always a wonderful problem. That's so great.
It is a good problem to have.
And how do you get the cats that you get? Is it like a number of ways, or is it just a system? How does that work?
So, like I said, they all come from our rescue, the Animal Coalition of Delaware County. We work with the shelter in Philadelphia, which is called ACCT, Animal Care and Control. We work with them. We work with a number of people who rescue feral cats. And what will happen is, someone will trap a feral cat, take it for spay and neuter, and determine that it's not actually a feral cat, that it was a friendly that found its way into these colonies. We take those cats. We do owner turnovers if someone can no longer care for their animal and needs to rehome it. We take animals that way as well. So, it's a combination of shelters, strays that come through feral colony management, and public turnover, owner turnover.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. And what about you, right? Like, what's your background? Like, have you always been in this type of arena, or did you kind of step in a little bit later? How'd that go?
So I started volunteering for a county shelter in probably 2004. And it was, like a large facility. It was a kill shelter through no fault of their own. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible problem, all these animals that are being euthanized every year. And a group of volunteers from the shelter, we had decided that we wanted to do something a little differently. And we wanted to start a foster-based rescue. So in 2005, we started a foster-based rescue in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, just to help out those animals that we could, to try and take in the cats, dogs, and rabbits. Maybe might not do well at a shelter, but would do better in a foster environment. So that was kind of our focus, was to do a foster-based rescue. And so we started from there, and we've been going strong since then. That was honestly my first foray into rescue. I'm a scientist by trade. I do research, and it just, I grew up with animals, and I've just always had a soft spot for, helping the animals in need. My mom, will tell you that, I was feeding kittens milk, any kittens that were hanging around the house, I would put out bowls of milk for them, that kind of thing. And so I've just always wanted to work with animals. And this is how I choose to spend my time.
I think that's so cool. And it just, like, this industry, you get such a wide variety of people from like different backgrounds. And it just goes to show, like, if you just, like, but the thing we have in common is like, hey, like, let's just help some animals. And so I think that's so cool. What would you say, what are some hurdles that you have encountered since opening the cafe in 2018? So we're coming up on 3 years now. What are some hurdles that you guys have faced out there?
Honestly, I think it's the hurdles that every rescue organization faces: time, money, and personnel. It's finding good volunteers, good dedicated staffing to help you. There's never enough time, and there's never enough money. COVID, really threw us for a loop. We ended up actually coming out even. We didn't lose any money, but we didn't make any money, which is, I think, a win.
Yeah.
But, for long stretches of time in 2020, we couldn't be open to the public. So we had to, improvise and adapt ways to generate income. I think all of the rescues are kind of feeling the same effects, whether it's, during COVID or in normal times. It really comes down to time, money, and personnel, trying to get, as many as possible, as much time as possible, as many people as possible, and as much money as possible. No, I was just going to say, like, when we first started, when we opened the cafe, it was basically a blank storefront. It had windows, it had a concrete floor, and a bathroom. Other than that, it was an empty shell, which was nice. It was really nice, but we had to coordinate construction of the entire thing. We were, able to do it on a budget because we engaged people in the community and asked for help. We had a lot of volunteers that spent a lot of time helping us out with the construction. It made it, it didn't happen as quickly as if we had hired somebody to do it, but we were able to do it on a much smaller budget. But that was kind of our biggest hurdle in opening, was, the initial construction.
That's amazing that you guys were able to kind of harness the, get help from the community. And because, like you said, I mean, especially, these days, it's just, it's so cool that you were able to kind of like get that help to kind of cut costs down. And what I was going to ask was like, what's maybe one of the things that you guys implemented last year when, things were shutting down and stuff that kind of like helps you be able to make a little bit of income, right? Like what I've seen, like every business, every rescue, every not-for-profit had to do something, right? What was that one of those things you guys did?
So we did two things. Number one, we opened an eBay store.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
We started doing Facebook auctions. We have a lot of very, very talented volunteers. We have artists. We have people who like to sew. We have, even not necessarily, people who create art for us, but people who, are donating items. And so we started doing Facebook auctions monthly. And that really helps with income for the year. We're actually still continuing them, even though we're open full time. We're doing the Facebook auctions monthly. I have a volunteer who makes quilts, and every month she donates a new kind of cat or dog themed quilt to the rescue. We have volunteers who sew cat pillows. We have a volunteer who's a wonderful artist who has made portraits for us. We have another volunteer who does digital portraits. And so every auction, she donates a digital portrait, and just other, items that we have in our gift shop. We put them up. Masks were initially a huge seller when quarantine began. So, we kind of had to harness the opportunities we have, and, social media didn't shut down. So we used social media to try and generate some income through COVID.
That's so cool. And that's amazing. I think that's the first organization I've talked to that's done something like that. So it's really cool to hear you guys kind of use what's available. And like you said, you figure out it's working, then there's, you can just still implement it now too, to help the rescue, help the cafe. That's amazing.
Absolutely. If it works, we're not changing it.
Yeah, exactly. That's so cool. And to kind of switch gears here, what would you say you've been in the industry now for almost 2 decades. What is the favorite part about what it is that you do on a daily basis?
I love meeting new cats. I love coming to the cafe and seeing a new cat, looking, personality, trying to figure out its personality, what its likes, what its dislikes are. And I think, going along with that, one of my favorite things to see when I'm at the cafe is to see the evolution of a personality of a cat. If we have a cat that initially comes in and is scared and, kind of cowering and doesn't want to hang out with people, to, over the weeks that it's here, get it so that you can, hold it like a baby in your hands and give it a little kiss on the top of the head. That makes me so happy to see a cat go from, kind of scared in the corner to seeking out affection from people. And it's amazing, especially when they get adopted, then to know that you had a hand in taking a cat that was scared and not showing well into a cat that now seeks out attention and is saying, hey, adopt me, take me home.
That's so cool. And it's cats definitely, they take a little while to open up sometimes. Like, yeah, there are those friendly cats that are just, friendly to everyone, but, and, they're great. That's amazing. But, there are quite a few cats that are not like that. So to getting to witness that firsthand is really, really cool. And I'm sure it's so rewarding. And what I found too is that the one cat cafe I've been to, I feel like it's a cool place it kind of gives the cats a little bit more room to shine for their personality, as opposed to maybe a rescue where they're in a cage or, whatever. I feel like they can have more things to play on and all that other stuff. Do you think that's true, or what do you think of that?
I do. I think that for cats that like other cats, a cafe setting is really wonderful for them. There's a cat that I was, really kind of referring to earlier when I said, watching somebody come out of their shell. She came in with another cat, and she was scared. He was a little more bold, and in this setting, she doesn't have to become, a friendly cat overnight. If it takes a couple weeks, it takes a couple weeks. But, she sees the other cats and she sees their interaction with humans. She sees that they get pet on the head and they're purring and they like, sitting on people's laps and they like, all of this interaction with humans. And by virtue of her seeing the other cats do it, she learns that, you know what, maybe this isn't so bad. And I think this setting can help cats like that come out of their shell.
That's so cool that you say that, because it's so true. Like, cats will watch other cats and learn from other cats. I remember I grew up on a farm and we had a bunch of cats. And I remember we got this one cat and he started dipping his paw in the water, like a spoon. And then all of the other cats started doing it. It was like this, like, infection or something where they all just started doing it. So that you're right. I mean, I never thought of it like that, but that's a really cool perspective. And what do you think for someone out there who, you know, whether they're a scientist or a business owner or just whatever they are, right? And they're like, wow, like, I really want to make a change. Like, they think a cat cafe is their calling. What advice would you give to them, you know, embarking on this journey?
Well, I think that there's a number of different models that you can take when you are going to open a cafe. We did this as a 501c3, as a nonprofit. So, you know, the way we're working is going to be very different from a full service, food service type situation that has paid employees. We have no paid employees. We're volunteer only. Either way you do it, it's a lot of fun. I think that it's important to if you're doing this on your own and you want to run it as a for-profit business, I think it's important that you pick the rescue that you work with wisely and make sure that both the rescue and the cafe have the same expectations, and make sure that everybody's on the same page when it comes to basically like how long the cats are in the cafe. What happens if a cat isn't adjusting well? Is there a time limit for a cat to be in the cafe? You know, does it get pulled after 6 months? Where does the cat go if it gets sick? Who's responsible for medical bills? There's a lot to think about just in the day-to-day maintenance and care of the cat. Who pays for food? Who pays for litter? That kind of a thing. As a rescue running the cafe, it's all in-house. We know where the cat's going to go if it gets sick. We tend to not move cats from the cafe once they're here. Once they're here, they'll get adopted from here. It's very rare that we move a cat out. You know, we have all those things kind of lined up already. We don't have a food license, so, you know, we don't have to worry about, the food preparation guidelines and all of that. We're volunteer only, so we don't have to worry about paid staff. So either way, it's a lot of fun. The one thing I do have to manage is that I have to manage the expectations of volunteers, that they think they're going to come in and play with cats for 2 hours. But, you know, realistically, it's like, well, you have to come in, you have to clean, and you have to feed, and you have to do all these other things first. Once you get all those things done, then you can play with the cat. I feel like if you are willing to devote your time here, then yes, you do deserve to go in and hang out with and play with the cats. It's not all work where, you know, you're not allowed to, you know, touch them or go in or anything like that. But sometimes you do have to manage the expectations of volunteers, that they're not just here to hang out with the cats, that there is, you know, a little bit of work involved.
Yeah, that's great advice. Like, just managing expectations on all fronts and just making sure everyone's goals are the same and everything's aligned. I'm sure that's a really important part, especially like you said, if you're not you're not a rescue in-house doing this, there's going to be different logistics there. And that's an interesting way to look at it. And yeah, I mean, I think that's really good insight, because the Cat Cafe is, you know, in the all grand scheme of things, it's pretty new. It's not like, you know, hasn't been around for decades on decades. So I would imagine we probably see more, which I think that's amazing. Where can people reach you guys if they want to, maybe they're passing through, right? Or maybe they just want to support you guys online, right? Like, sounds like you guys are on, you know, a great presence online. Where can we find you at?
So our website is catnookcafe.com. Pretty easy. We have all information there about bookings, donations. It'll also link to our Facebook page where we have a volunteer who manages our social media, and she loves doing Facebook Live videos. So you can see probably one a day of our Facebook Live videos. And it helps, introduce the people to the new cats that we have in the cafe and see personalities too. We know not everybody's able to visit. And so, everybody gets to see them through Facebook Live. We have our auctions on Facebook Live as well. And, if you happen to be at the Philadelphia airport and you have a 2-hour layover, we're 10 minutes away. So.
Wow, that's perfect. Like, I can't think of a better way to spend a layover.
I know, right?
That's great. Wow. Yeah. So all the links that were mentioned will be in the description below on whatever medium you're listening on. But Lisa, seriously, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with you guys about your organization and everything that you're doing. Thank you for having me. Yeah, of course.
I'm really happy to do this.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, once again, thanks a lot for coming on, and look forward to speaking again.
All right. Thank you.